Hello. From graphics we move to color just now because I talked about the green dot. Use of color is very important and it is so because it communicates a mood, it communicates conventional meanings at times. So be very careful of using colors because colors may have some meaning in certain cultures and it can be changing in other places. So remember to use the standard conventions at times whenever you want to depict something, and the thumb rule or the guidelines for using color can be as follows. The basic thumb rule is that more the contrast, more the readability. You can see that the title of this slide is written in grey, the color guidelines, vis-a-vis the content of the slide is written in black. The background for both is white, therefore you can see that although the size of the title is bigger than the content, the first thing you see when you look at the slide is the bulleted list. So this is how you can play around with color and then you can actually make the content more visible. Another interesting aspect about color is when you use the presentation in various scenarios. If you are giving a presentation in a dimly lit room or a dark room, then it is advisable to use a black background and have only the text in white color or lighter color. The advantage is that the strain on the eyes is minimal when you use the black background. With a white background, the users or the viewers have to open up their eyes really to the max in order to accommodate the rays getting inside. Same applies when you are using a presentation in a brightly lit room, then this kind of presentation which is on a white background with just the black text becomes easier on eyes especially. Simple thing but important, use of vivid colors have to be avoided, or pale colors also are a great no for this because they just provide very poor readability. The vivid colors will bleed out and they will be very jarring to eyes. Use a color scheme which will suit your topic. What I mean is that especially for academic purposes, most of the time do not choose very bright and colors which have different conventions. For example, using fashion colors like violet and pink, magenta probably may not communicate the thermodynamics topic you are trying to communicate. Use neutral colors like greys and browns typically, or blue greys for communicating such topics. So those will be ideal for academic content. From colors we move on to typography or the use of fonts. Here I would like to ask a question. While communicating even in a paragraph or in a presentation, we would like to give some emphasis to certain points. Now how do you lend emphasis? At this point, take a minute here, pause my video and write down various ways in which you can emphasize a word using the options available in your font or typography. So in a presentation you want to emphasize one particular word, how are you going to do that? So here is the list of things. How do you lend emphasis? I have tried to show this using the word emphasis itself. So you can make it bold like this, you can have italics, you can have an underline, you can also have a change of color. However, the problem happens when you see that all those options are mixed together to give a font an effect of underline, bold, italic and also the change of color. This is a big no because it is overemphasizing the topic what you are trying to say. Just one change would lend you enough emphasis. There are certain interesting guidelines which you can browse through. I will try to also post it on the forum, when to use these kind of options in the font, when to use bold, when to use italic. But right now just remember these minimum guidelines. Choose only 2 fonts maximum in a given presentation or a document. You can use one font for the heading and another font for the body. However, refrain yourself from using multiple fonts. Same applies to the font options. Like I said earlier, if you want to emphasize, use a particular type of emphasizing option throughout your presentation, that will give a good consistency. But avoid yourself from using italic in some slides and bold in another slides, that will create a chaos. Left alignment, like what you see here, is more readable and reader friendly. However, it depends on the template at times. For example, if you are writing a conference paper or something, the paper which is printed in hand typically requires the columns to be demarked very clearly. Therefore, while writing a printed document, people utilize a justification option in the typography. But for presentations, mostly it is easy on eye if you have the left, because that will give this white space a breather kind of thing for the eyes. The last but not the least is use of grid. Grid is available in almost all slide presentation tools, but most of us have never used it. Please switch on the grid, going to the view option of that particular software which you are comfortable with, and use it for aligning your content. For example, if this dot has to be in the center, please move it and the grid will tell you whether it is in the center or not. So such things are very important, so please use that. From the typography, let us come to the impress guidelines, which is when you are actually presenting it. There are too many transitions available these days, and these are like the text is flowing and the text appears in animated format, or it opens up the doors and Venetian blinds and whatnot. What it does is, typically, instead of getting people to understand what you are trying to say, like you want the audience to take away what message you are communicating, these kind of attributes typically do the other way around effect on the audience, are taken away from the message. This does the actual reverse of the thing what you are planning. The audience gets taken away from the message, which you never want. So in short, whenever you are deciding about how to present a particular content, because now till now you must have decided what to present in your content. Now when you decide how to present it, this typical debate about form over function is very important. According to me, both are important. There is nothing like form is the only important thing and you do not have to worry about function. It is not like that, because if you give some attention less to any one of these, it will be ineffective in communicating what it is trying to do. On the other hand, if you give excess attention to any one of these, it will create a chaos. For example, if you play around too much with the color or the fonts and all that, best of the content may get ruined. On the other hand, if you have a perfectly designed template with good fonts and good color and good layouts and all that, but if the content is not correct and written lousily, then again the same effect will happen. So therefore, what you have to practice is to give equal importance to it. At the same time, let the content choose the kind of form it requires, and the decision should be governed by the content. So it should come from the content. Since the content is about this particular thing, the color scheme should be like this, the font should be like this, and so on and so forth. The graphics could be accordingly. So the guideline slides what I have presented in this particular short presentation should be able to help you in creating such things. Finally, some takeaways from this lecture. Let the content decide the particular choice of mediums, of font, color, type, etc. Do follow well researched guidelines before taking any decision about addition of a graphic or font or something. Importantly, test before presenting your content. These days with digital devices all around, we can also see that there is a lot of chaotic situations at times. For example, you go to a presentation podium and the laptop does not connect with the projector for the screen size and the resolution. There can also be a situation where the colors are not presented properly as you wanted to. In all these conditions, it makes it very important to test before presenting. That is why I have written this topic. So generally keep these things in mind, use 6 by 6 rules, so not more than 6 points on a slide, and within that 6 point the words should be not more than 6. Now this is pretty tough at times because it takes lot more effort to pack your content in 6 words, but give it a try. And like I said, these are not cast in stone, 7 words or 8 words at times are okay and permissible as far as they communicate easily for the users. Choose a template which promotes readability. Typically small fonts become very difficult, and in fact if you try practicing only 6 bullets in a slide, probably it should be even less, then that should be pretty readable. Use phrases or abbreviated sentences rather than full sentences, because that will minimize your word count and the crowded feeling on the slide will be reduced considerably and making it easier for the users to read it. This is typical of presentation. Use a sans serif font like what I have used here for presentations. On the contrary, use a serif font like Times Roman, Palatino or Bodoni for printing a document which has to be given in hand for reading. So this is a standard thing. If you have, if you try to change these fonts at times, you will figure out that for anything which is displayed and to be seen from a distance, it is easy to use a sans serif font like Helvetica or Arial or other things, right. One of the few other guidelines is about using of graphics. Typically use high quality graphics and reinforce your message using them. However, be careful while using graphics. Look out for the copyright issues about the use of graphics. Every search engine will allow you to choose the graphics which are copyright free, use them. In case you use a graphic or a visual or a sentence from any other place, please do not forget to give the reference at the end of the page or the slide. That will be a good practice to follow, and people who will see your presentation will also appreciate it and start following it. Use the effects like animation and other things sparingly, only if they are required and necessary for communicating something important. Highlight the important information, like you see in the entire slide which I had shown in the outline stage, I had highlighted the words which are going to be covered in this particular presentation. So that helps the attention to be scoped for the users and the viewers. This is very interesting, the last point which I am written here, but try practicing that. If you are called for giving a talk or a presentation on a particular topic, try to make one page handout of this presentation and give it out to all the people who are attending in advance so that they can follow what you are trying to say. With this, we have come to the end of this session. I thank you for being there. I would welcome your suggestions and comments if you have any, and we would be happy to discuss them over the discussion forum. You can also contact me on the email addresses given here. Thank you.